Liam Lawson is currently experiencing the merciless reality of Formula One. After just 2 races alongside Max Verstappen in the Red Bull factory team, the New Zealander has been ordered back to sister team Racing Bulls, a move that has surprised even seasoned observers. Lawson himself openly admitted that he was caught completely unprepared by this decision. After a difficult start in Australia and a weak qualifying in China came the news. Yuki Tsunoda returns to the cockpit next to Verstappen, and Lawson must once again make his way to Faenza. For a 23-year-old who had only recently gotten a real chance in the Premier class, this is a brutal blow. Just a few months ago, he was considered one of the most promising talents in the Red Bull cosmos, and his promotion to the main team was celebrated by many as a logical step. But patience at Red Bull is traditionally short, and weak performances are barely tolerated. Lawson himself described the decision as surprising and unexpected, while emphasizing that he wants to use every opportunity to prove that he belongs in Formula One. If you like this deeper insight, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and leave your opinion in the comments. Was Lawson's sacrifice too early, or is Red Bull's decision understandable? The circumstances of his demotion speak volumes about the pressure within the Red Bull system. 2 weak weekends were enough to end his position in the factory team, despite the clear risk that 2 difficult tracks and unpredictable conditions hardly serve as a final judgment on his talent. In Australia, he slid off the track in difficult conditions. In China, he remained below expectations in qualifying. Red Bull, however, wasted no time and pulled the emergency brake. Particularly explosive, Lawson himself only learned of the decision shortly after the China weekend, when preparations for Suzuka were already underway. "It was more or less a done deal when they told me," he explained. In other words, no discussion, no second chance, but an abrupt end to his first major test. For a young driver who was just getting used to the processes in the main team, this is a hard signal. However, Lawson showed composure. Instead of wallowing in self-pity, he immediately focused on the return to Racing Bulls. There, he will now compete alongside Isack Hadjar, a rookie who took over the seat that Lawson had to vacate. Ironically, this means that Lawson must rebuild his career from the bottom in the Red Bull cosmos, while he had actually already walked through the door to great success. The reactions to his demotion are divided. Some experts see it as a clear sign of Red Bull's ruthless strategy. Whoever doesn't deliver immediately gets replaced. Others consider the move hasty and believe that Lawson would have needed more time to prove his potential. Former Red Bull driver Jaime Alguersuari showed sympathy and reminded how quickly careers can be destroyed by such decisions. Other voices also emphasize that Lawson barely had a chance to really show himself in the short time. Interesting is that Christian Horner presented the measure as a kind of duty of care. They wanted to protect Lawson, it was said, by giving him the opportunity to continue racing at Racing Bulls without the immense pressure alongside Verstappen. But this portrayal seems like an excuse to many. The fact is, Red Bull needs immediate results and apparently didn't see Lawson as the driver who could deliver them. For Lawson, this now means a mental effort. He knows that with every lap in the Racing Bulls cockpit, he must prove that he is better than the bare results of his 2 races in the main team show. He himself emphasizes that his self-confidence remains intact. We all have enough self-confidence, otherwise we wouldn't be here. That doesn't change even with this decision. Nevertheless, the reality remains hard. The path back to the factory team is long and uncertain. Red Bull is known for quickly burning through talents, and the competition in their own junior program is merciless. With drivers like Hadjar and Arvid Lindblad, the next candidates are already waiting. Lawson must not only convince, he must stand out to even have a chance at a return. Particularly piquant is the question of whether he will ever again get a realistic opportunity to gain a foothold in the Red Bull factory team. His debut, there was a rare opportunity that he couldn't fully utilize. But as he himself notes, in Formula One, things change very quickly. That's exactly what he'll have to rely on now. The unpredictability of this sport, which has already steered so many careers in unexpected directions. The coming weeks and months will be decisive. Lawson knows he can no longer make mistakes if he wants to stay in the conversation. He speaks of his task now being to drive fast and show that I belong here. A simple formula, but in a sport where tenths of seconds decide careers, also an almost inhuman challenge. The demotion of Liam Lawson back to Racing Bulls is more than just a personnel decision. It's a reflection of the merciless mechanisms that Red Bull has cultivated for years in its driver roster. The system functions according to a clear principle: performance immediately or make room. This philosophy has indeed produced world champions in the past, but has also abruptly ended careers. The Lawson case fits seamlessly into this tradition and raises fundamental questions about how Red Bull wants to shape its driver policy in the future. At the center is the question, was the change really sportingly justified, or rather a strategic chess move to control internal dynamics? Yuki Tsunoda, who replaced Lawson in the factory team, had great difficulties in the past asserting himself alongside Verstappen. Nevertheless, management decided to give him a new chance, officially with the argument that Tsunoda has more experience and can better maintain balance in the team. But many observers are convinced this wasn't just about experience, but also about political decisions in the context of the close partnership with Honda. For Lawson, this means that despite his youth and talent, he must fight against forces that go far beyond pure performance. Formula One is not just a sport, but also a political chess game where sponsors, engine partners, and national interests play a decisive role. Especially for a New Zealander without the backing of a billion-dollar corporation, it's an almost hopeless battle. Nevertheless, Lawson emphasizes that he wants to prove that he belongs here. This defiance could become his greatest strength, or break him definitively. The situation becomes even more complex when considering the rest of the driver roster in the Red Bull universe. Isack Hadjar has driven himself into the spotlight with strong performances and has long been considered a favorite for the second cockpit in the factory team from 2026. Arvid Lindblad, just promoted from Formula 2, is already being traded as a future star. In this Shark Tank, Lawson must survive, and not with average results, but with outstanding performances. But what happens if he manages exactly that? Recent Red Bull history shows that even strong performances in the junior team are no guarantee of promotion. Examples like Pierre Gasly or Alex Albon prove that one can be quickly pushed up, but just as quickly dropped again. For Lawson, this means he must position himself not only sportingly, but also strategically, cleverly. A possible way out: recommend himself long-term to another team that recognizes his qualities before Red Bull definitively drops him. Interesting is how Lawson himself handles this complex situation. Instead of publicly showing frustration, he tries to transform his disappointment into motivation. He speaks of everything going very fast in Formula One and refers to the fact that a year ago he didn't even have a cockpit. This awareness of the speed of the sport is crucial. Lawson knows, already one strong weekend, a single outstanding race can completely change perception. That's exactly what he'll now try to achieve in Suzuka and the following Grand Prix races. Christian Horner's role must not be underestimated in this story. Although he spoke publicly of a duty of care, it's clear that Horner ultimately acts in the interest of the team and the Constructors' Championship. Young drivers are interchangeable in the Red Bull system. Only Verstappen enjoys absolute security. For Lawson, this means he doesn't see a personal promoter in Horner, but a hard-nosed manager who demands results. At the same time, this experience could also shape Lawson. Whoever survives in the Red Bull system has learned to deal with maximum pressure, a quality highly valued by other teams. Another aspect, the psychological dimension. For a young driver, such a demotion is a hard blow. Many talents have been broken by it, but Lawson emphasizes that his self-confidence remains intact. Whether that's true will be shown on the track, because in the end, only lap time counts. Words are worth little in this business. It's about tenths of seconds that decide careers. The situation is anything but relaxed for Yuki Tsunoda as well. With his return to the factory team, the pressure increases enormously. Every mistake, every weak performance will be immediately compared with the decision to sacrifice Lawson. Should Tsunoda fail, Red Bull management would again be under criticism. Lawson could then be presented as a lost opportunity. Or he could become the beneficiary if he simultaneously shows outstanding performances at Racing Bulls. The bigger question is, what does this step mean for Red Bull's long-term strategy? Will they continue to rely on the hard line of putting young drivers under maximum pressure? Or will a rethink eventually be necessary? Modern Formula One has become more complex, and continuity is becoming increasingly important.